More bad news about Joe Biden and his health. Neurologist Dr. Tom Pitts said it's a fact that President Joe Biden has Parkinsonisms and degeneration of the brain.
You've never examined President Biden, from my knowledge. You've never even spoken yet to President Biden.
Been in the
yeah,
room
and we're just going to use what we have so far, which is what we've seen, the president's interviews, and the information coming out of the White House.
His motor symptoms are degenerating. He has Parkinsonisms. That is a fact. He has degeneration of the brain. Show me the MRI. Show me he doesn't. Put your money where your mouth is. He definitely has it. But the problem is, when you look at his situation, you can't say, oh, I know for a fact he has just such classic features of neurodegeneration. I mean, word finding difficulties, and that's not, oh, I couldn't find the word. That's from degeneration of the word retrieval area.
He's also overcome stuttering, though. Could that be part of that, too?
No, this is not a palatal issue or a speech discrepancy, which is very different from a lemino dysfunction, actual word retrieval.
Meanwhile, ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos, who sat down with the president last week and questioned him on his mental fitness, was caught on camera on the streets of New York yesterday and asked if he thinks Biden can serve another 4 years.
Hey, excuse me. Hey, how you doing? Good. What do you think? Do you think Biden should step down? You talked to him more than anybody else have lately, and you could be honest. Serve 4 more years. You don't think he can serve 4 more years? All right. That's an answer.
Stephanopoulos responded to the incident last night. He said in a statement earlier today, I responded to a passerby. I shouldn't have. ABC News also weighed in, quote, George expressed his own point of view and not the position of ABC News.
And what he expressed, in case you couldn't hear it there, was that Biden could not serve 4 more years. That was a damaging series of interviews. Additionally, just saw George Clooney put out an op-ed in the New York Times calling on Biden to step aside.
I guess these are those elites that Biden was talking about.
Yeah, right. I don't particularly care about George Clooney's opinion. It does tell you something that George Stephanopoulos, who did just interview him at great length, said that he was not at all reassured by the interview that he conducted. And
Clooney just did the fundraiser in LA with Biden. So both met him recently, had like first-person interactions with him, and both saying he's not up for running. I know the White House really wants to hammer this whole like punditry is taking over the narrative, and it's not any factual basis. But the people who are meeting with him, the Adam Smiths, the George Clooneys, like these people who intimately are having interactions with him are saying he is not the person he is.
In addition to a neurologist, that wasn't some crazy right-wing doctor on some contrarian news site. That was NBC.
And I will say that guy admitted he had never met with the president, hadn't seen his records.
Well, that's never stopped us before.
Yeah, but I will say that doctor is making some interesting points. I mean, we all see what we see, and I think this is why it's so important that the White House and the campaign have been, the fact that they've been gaslighting people for so long. There's a trust deficit.
Why are there not more calls to convene the cabinet? I mean, there were for Trump over his mainstream media did run at various points with a narrative that Trump was psychotic and deranged and mentally unfit to serve as president and racist and Hitler and a million other things. And why shouldn't the cabinet act to remove him due to mental unfitness? They went with that a couple times. It seems Biden's decline seems, again, you can dislike Trump for policy reasons. Biden's decline seems much more evident and well established from a medical perspective, and nobody's doing anything about it right now.
No, and there actually was a system in place that was supposed to protect against this. During the Trump presidency, Pelosi put forth legislation that was supposed to convene an independent medical person that could check to make sure that the president at all times had their faculties. After Trump lost the election, they actually didn't put the legislation back up to be voted on. Had that legislation been put up, there would be an independent panel that could go and check to see whether the president was still fit.
Amazing.
It's interesting, right?
Great little fact. Thank you for sharing that with us. So look, the long and short of it is, I still don't think any of this is going to persuade Joe Biden to step aside. Maybe the loss of George Clooney's support could be devastating to him personally, but we're hearing that. Oh, by the way, we should discuss this. It's already been discussed. Jill Biden, Hunter Biden he's surrounded by them. They're gatekeeping for the president. They're urging him to stay in the race. Wasn't it supposed to be that one of the clear contrasts between Trump and Biden, supposedly, was that Biden would not involve his family members in the business of running the country. I appreciate that this isn't quite the same thing as literally putting Jared Kushner in charge of wide swaths of public policy, but whether Biden is fit to serve is a public policy issue. Yeah, he hasn't put Hunter Biden in charge of some aspect of the government, but whether the commander-in-chief continues to serve and is fit to serve, that is a decision being motivated by Hunter Biden's involvement. That seems to me to be coming pretty close to breaking a fundamental promise that Biden had made, and makes the contrast between Biden and Trump on this issue much more slight.
Yeah, I got to say, I was not just like stunned, but really turned off by the fact that Hunter Biden was in those meetings after the Supreme Court ruling, and as Joe Biden was preparing to make that statement. Look, I'm a Biden supporter, I'm a Democrat, all that kind of good stuff. But the closer we're getting to this election, the more we're starting to see him turn into this almost Trumpian foot in the stand, kind of not being flexible at all. It's a
Hunter Biden was
turnoff.
just convicted of a crime.
Yes.
He was convicted of a crime.
I mean, if for nothing else, Democrats would lose their mind if
Yes.
Jared Kushner had been convicted of a crime and then was in the Oval Office days later. It's not a good look. It shows that this insider mentality is really kind of taking over the White House. They're not listening to anyone. They're making stupid errors, things that are preventable. This just isn't the campaign that we saw in 2020. And it's starting to look more and more like this Trumpian thing that I think most Democrats are really comfortable with.
Yeah, we've got plenty of time to go still. I guess the question now is, could it be that when the NATO summit is done, will there be another sustained push to kind of get him to step aside? I think there was one sort of over the weekend as a result of the Stephanopoulos interview, and I think that kind of fizzled out when he said, absolutely not, I will not step aside. And you're seeing some people back off their calls for him to do that. I'm wondering if after this week of policy happening in D.C., this which has been incredibly disruptive to those of us trying to.
Yeah, I was going to say, traffic has been a nightmare.
Traffic has been insane.
I do think there's an argument to be made that you take a little bit of a pullback while we're having the NATO conference here. You've got world leaders here. There's major policy being discussed around Ukraine, and you don't want to undermine a sitting president during that process. So I do think you're going to see more calls after that conference ends. But he also has to do a press conference today where he's going to be fielding questions. What's that going to look like? Because this press conference is going to be the first of what will be 117 odd days of him being analyzed. Every word he says, every movement he makes being analyzed solely under the lens of, can he effectively be able to be president? Can he just do the bare minimum of the job? And so Democrats are making a very big risk, taking a very big gamble by saying that no matter what, they're behind Biden. Should he stumble today? Should next week something happen? I mean, the whole case for Democrats is that we want to be talking about what a danger Trump will be, what a danger Project 2025 will be. This week has been spent talking about Biden and his health, and not about what a threat Trump would be.
Clooney writes, this is about age, nothing more, but also nothing that can be reversed. We are not going to win in November with this president. On top of that, we won't win the House, and we're going to lose the Senate. This isn't only my opinion. This is the opinion of every senator and congress member and governor that I've spoken with in private. Every single one, irrespective of what they're saying publicly. Yep. We love to talk about how the Republican Party has ceded all power to a single person who seeks to hold on to the presidency, and yet most of our members of Congress are opting to wait and see if the dam breaks. If the dam has broken, we can put our heads in the sand and pray for a miracle in November, or we can speak the truth. And he says it's disingenuous at best to argue that Democrats already settled on the nominee. This is new information.
This is big for Democratic donors. Jeffrey Katzenberg, who we all know is a big kind of Hollywood producer, he's a huge Democratic donor and bundles a lot of money, as does George Clooney. And by Clooney coming out and putting out this op-ed, that's going to put a signal to a lot of donors and a lot of these mega bundlers that they should start looking elsewhere. I know we talk about kind of the Hollywood elite and actors and things like that, but Clooney isn't just an actor, but he's also, his wife is working on the Hague, working in the Hague, and working on the Israel and Gaza prosecution. Like there's a lot of ties to this.
That's a good point. All right, we'll be back with more Rising right after this.